Good morning. No. Let's get to the cat. See if you can hear me. Hold on. There we go. Hello, Lily. Gonna let some people come in. Make sure I have my cords ready to plug in. It's not AA without a little chaos. Let's plug in. Let me see about this one. Good morning. It's not AA without some crazy stuff going on. Try to get on here and get ready. Thank you for telling everybody I'm live if they have time. Oh, what a morning, what a morning. So I had to give my new glasses back and have them put the line in them so I can know where to look for my what I'm doing. So it's the old ones. So anyways, enough about that. So good morning. Welcome to AA. If you're new here, welcome. I hope it helps. If you're returning, good morning. Thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Please don't pass judgment in the comments and be kind to each other. Yeah. And don't harass each other after the live stream. Don't go to somebody's page and harass them. So anyways, here we go. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, thought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So I always put in the description what book we're reading and the page and the name of what we're reading. So today is Safe Haven on page 452. If you don't have a book, it's alright, I'm gonna read it anyways. This AA found that the process of discovering who he really was began with knowing who he didn't want to be. Just a second. Prison was a wonderful life. It is. Here I am, sitting in a cell, waiting for my hot spot to heat up so I can have a cup of instant coffee and reminisce, and I ponder my current circumstances. I reflect on the undeniable fact that I am well into my 4th year of incarceration. I still wake up some mornings wishing it were all a bad dream. I didn't grow up in a home that used alcohol, but when I took my first drink at age of 13, I knew I would drink again. Being raised in a home founded on high moral standards didn't seem to instill any fear of consequences once I took a drink of booze. Sometimes, as I rode my bicycle around the neighborhood, I would spy a grown-up in his yard drinking beer. Returning later, when I knew he was not at home, I would break into his home and steal the golden beverage from the refrigerator. I recall too well the morning when another guy and I stole my dad's credit card and pickup truck so we could run off to California to become movie stars. We had a pistol so we could rob stores when the time came to stock up on beer, cash, and cigarettes before the first day of travel was over. However, I told my friend I couldn't go on any longer and needed to return home. I knew my mom and dad were climbing the walls with worry by now. My friend refused to turn back, so I let him out of the truck. I never saw him again. My parents may have recognized my behavior as some serious adolescent rebellion, but they had no idea it was fueled by the disease of alcoholism. At age 16, I got a part-time job as a disc jockey for a local radio station. Those in a position to know observed that I had a knack for this kind of work. So I dropped out of high school and started spinning records full time. Drinking and partying went hand in hand with this job. Soon a pattern began that lasted for many years. When alcoholism became obvious to my employers and began to affect my job performance, I would simply resign and seek employment with another broadcasting company. I recall one day when I was doing a midday show, I realized I could not go another minute without a drink. I put on an album and quietly walked out of the radio station unnoticed. I drove to a liquor store and bought a bottle of whiskey, got back in my car, turned on the radio, and started drinking. As I sat there listening to song after song, the album eventually came to an end, and all you could hear was the needle scratching against the turntable. Someone at the station finally realized I was no longer in the control room and put on another record. During my years in the broadcast industry, I worked from time to time as a radio storm chaser. It was my job to use radar information to follow the storm and spot tornadoes, hail, flooding, and storm-related hazards or damage. I would then use a cellular phone in my vehicle to give live reports over the radio while chasing the storm. One night, the storm was extremely turbulent. Our listening audience was larger than ever as I gave my live report, sounding as if I were on the front lines of a war zone. The following day newspaper honored our station with a nice article about the professional job we did on weather coverage. But what no one knew was that all of those professional storm reports were called in from the safety of my back patio as I ad-libbed a little better with each fresh glass of bourbon and cola. Periodically, I worked as a broadcast journalist and reported many news articles or news stories on location. I regularly drank on the job and was frequently loaded when calls came in about alcohol-related automobile accidents. There I was with microphone in one hand and flask in the other as I jumped into the news van and rushed to the scene of an accident, just as drunk or more so than the one who caused it. It was inevitable that I would one day become the news rather than just report it. By causing a serious accident as a result of my drinking, I had experienced run-ins with the law several times for not paying fines, public intoxication, fighting, and driving while intoxicated. But nothing could compare with the time the police asked me to come downtown for questioning concerning a murder. I had been drinking the night before and had gotten involved in a dangerous incident. I knew I hadn't committed a murder, but here I was, being considered a prime suspect. An hour or two into questioning, it was determined that I had not committed the crime, and I was released. This was quite enough to get my full attention though. Okay. I went home and called a friend I had seen at the local mall a week earlier. I hadn't talked to her for a couple of years, but I had noticed how different she looked and behaved. As we spoke, she said she hadn't had a drink for over a year. She told me about a group of friends who were helping her stay sober. I lied to her and claimed I hadn't had a drink myself for quite some time. I don't think she believed me, but she gave me her phone number and encouraged me to call if I would like to meet her friends. Later, when I worked up the nerve to call her, I admitted that I had a drinking problem and wanted to stop. She picked me up and took me to my first AA meeting. In Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew I had found a protective haven, but during the ensuing 4.5 years, I fell into the category known in AA parlance as a chronic slipper. I might get a good 6 months of sobriety under my belt, but then I would get a bottle to celebrate. I did all the things that were suggested for me to do. Within my first year around AA, I made some major decisions like getting married, returning the most expensive apartment I could find. Stop eating it then, ding dong. Sorry, it's the dog. Crazy dog. Anyway. I could find not using my sponsor, avoiding the step, hanging around old haunts with my old drinking pals, and talking more than listening during meetings. In short, I wasn't responding to the miracle of AA. My disease progressed, and I became a regular patient in detox hospitals, intensive care units, and treatment centers. Permanent insanity was drawn near, and the gates of death were in view. There is a saying that alcoholics either get sober, get sobered up, locked up, or covered up. Since I was not genuinely willing to do what it took to get sobered up, I had the other option to face. I never dreamed it would happen so quickly. It was a beautiful September weekend just before Labor Day. I made the decision to buy a case of beer and a bottle of wine. Later in the evening, I drank whiskey on top of the beer and wine, blacked out, committed a drunken crime, was arrested, and within 10 days was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison. I guess an alcoholic death can come in much the same way. I drink, I black out, I die. At least with prison, I would have another chance at life somewhere down the line. I can't start to describe the forced humility that is placed upon an alcoholic who comes to prison. Although I deserve to be in prison, the trauma was horrible. I'm not sure if I said that the right way, but the only encouragement and hope I was able to find was from reading the personal stories in the back of a tattered big book I found in my cell. Then one day I heard something that was music to my ears. A correctional officer announced that an AA meeting was to be held in the chapel. When I walked into the meeting, I took a seat and in the circle of chairs where I once again found a protective haven. As I pen this story, 3.5 years have passed since that meeting in the chapel. I have moved to a larger prison unit and have remained very active in the awesome program of Alcoholics Anonymous AA. has accomplished so many things in my life today. It has given me my sanity and all around sense of balance. Now willing to listen and take suggestions, I have found that the process of discovering who I really am begins with knowing who I really don't want to be. And although the disease of alcoholism inside of me is like gravity, just waiting to pull me down. AA and the 12 steps are like the power that causes an airplane to become airborne. It only works when the pilot is doing the right things to make it work. So as I have worked the program, I have grown emotionally and intellectually. I not only have peace with God, I have the peace of God through an active God consciousness. I have not only recovered from alcoholism, I've become whole in person, body, spirit, and soul. Get out of there. I have one God thing after another happens to me since submitting myself to the principles of AA. The trail of officials who convicted me and the victims of my crime have all decided to support my early release from prison. Condolences, I think not. I've received letters from former employers who have heard my sobriety and have offered me employment, again in the radio industry. These are just samples of God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. One of the things I have committed to do in return for God's grace is to immediately become active in a correctional committee upon my release. Bringing the AA message back into jails and prisons is extremely important to me and my own sobriety today. From experience, I've realized that I cannot go back and make a brand new start, but through AA, I can start from now and make a brand new end. So, uh, hello, Ava. Hey, Lily. So, I've never been to jail, I've never been in prison, but I have heard from going to AA that yes, AA needs to be in the jails and the prisons because just because they're in prison and stuff doesn't mean that they don't deserve to have sobriety. I have family members that have been to prison and they found sobriety in prison. And I think everyone that is an alcoholic, even if you're recovering, you need to know that there's meetings absolutely everywhere. And that's no joke. There truly are meetings everywhere you go. You may not know the language, you may not, uh, anyways, what I'm trying to say is AA works and it's there everywhere. AA people go everywhere. I mean, they are everywhere. I'm not the only recovering alcoholic. And when I found out that I was not the only one, and that there was a group of people that would be so very important in my life and become part of my sobriety, like my sponsor, my family, my best friends. I have two besties that have been sober for a while, and being able to share my story here, just like he did in he went to the jails and started doing meetings in the jails and the prisons. I'm doing them here for those who can't get out and go to meetings. And I wish that when the bad, gloomy time of 2020 was happening, that I would have started my AA meetings then. But I didn't even have my channel at that point. But I wish I had started it then, because there was a lot of friends from my fellowship of my home group that went back out to drinking. And I think that if they would have had something like this as an opportunity, maybe they would have stayed sober. And I don't say names because that is confidential. And I don't want anyone to, think that I'm going to give out their information. But these meetings to me are a major part of my life, a major part of my sobriety, being able to help others and share my story of my alcoholism and becoming sober and finding AA and having a lot of friends and sponsor and sponsees. It is a blessing to be able to wake up every day in sobriety. And because I am 10 years, I really don't have dreams about those anymore. But that doesn't mean to start thinking about it and then end up out there, because it can creep in no matter how long you've been sober. So you always have to keep in your mind that if you see it, say no, because I can tell you one won't be enough. I know when I went back out, one was not enough. And so I just want to be able to help others achieve sobriety and stay sober and know that there is help out there, that there are AA meetings. And if you need, talk to a stranger about it. You never know, they might know about AA too. But yeah, sobriety is the best. Even though you have bad days, it's worth every single moment of being sober, because you're not who you used to be, and you know who you used to be, and you don't want to go back to that ever. Even me, I don't want to go back to who I was. I was not a very good person when I was in my alcoholism, and but I'm glad I'm sober, and I'm more than happy to share my story of sobriety and how I got here and the things that helped me get through my days, and help all of you guys as well, ladies and gentlemen. Um, so yeah, I'm just glad that I can use these platforms to help the next newcomer. So with that, let's read the daily reflection. So I have an app on my phone. It's the Daily Reflection. You can download it, and it keeps track of your sobriety date. It has, most of them have the reading of the daily reflection. You can also, some of them have the audio of the book. Some of them have the books so you can read them. So yeah, it's a great thing to have. I always download daily reflection. Real independence, March 18th, 2025. The more we become willing to depend upon a higher power, the more independent we actually are. 12 Step, 12 Traditions, page 36. I start with a little willingness to trust God and His causes. That willingness to grow. The more willingness I have, the more trust I gain, and the more trust I gain, the more willingness I have. My dependence of God grows as my trust in God as my trust in Him grows. Before I became willing, I depended on myself for all my needs, and I was restricted by my incompleteness. Through my willingness to depend upon my higher power, whom I choose to call God, all my needs are provided for by someone who knows me better than I know myself. Even the needs I may not realize, as well as the ones yet to come. Only someone who knows me that well could bring me to myself, to be myself, and to help me fill the need in someone else that only I am meant to fill. There will be another exactly like me, and that is a real independence. So, I love you all, and let's say the Serenity Prayer, and you guys can have a wonderful week and stay sober. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Be safe, be kind, and stay sober. And the same to y'all. I love you all, and thank you for coming here and being supportive to my channel, being my friends, and helping others to achieve sobriety. It is one of my, how do I say it? One of my passions in my life now. So with that, I love you guys. Have a great week, and be safe, be kind, and stay sober.